Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks everybody for being here today. Exciting day, across college football. Everyone welcoming their new signing classes into their football programs, and for us, we're excited about the 20 young men. Obviously, one of which, in Tommy Carnifax, who's already been on campus, but for the other 19 guys to sign today and join our football family. A lot of thank yous, and I'll go over them again as I meet with our great fans here in a little while, but. Just a ton of thank yous. Our in-house recruiting staff, led by Chris Bowers, did a terrific job. Our coaching staff and their wives were great from every step of the way. A lot of sacrifice. We recruit as a staff, a lot of miles traveled, and a great job. And then obviously our athletic department, Kristen Kane and academic support, Jana Blay, who's our liaison to admissions. Aaron Hossman and our compliance staff. Jane Wagner was there bright and early with us this morning, and our athletic training staff, equipment staff. And then we had a huge weekend, a couple weeks ago, when we had, I believe, 18 of our guys was on their official visit. And, Jim Phillips and Morty Shapiro were just absolutely outstanding part of that weekend, and thank them for all their support. But at the end of the day, our players are our best ambassadors, and, we had 19 of these young men committed to play for us before their senior year. And that means at some point last year, our players all hosted this group unofficially, which meant they probably spent the night in their dorm room, which was probably really exciting. I can only imagine in a dorm room. But to have our guys sacrifice their free time and be great ambassadors for our program, very thankful for them. So great class, top to bottom. We fill a lot of our needs. We had competitive depth in areas that we feel like we need to add competitive depth. And, look forward to watching these guys progress. They'll show up here for Father's Day weekend, start summer school, and they get rocking and rolling. So with that, I'll take some questions, please.
I got two questions. First of all, what makes Jeremy Larkin's game so impressive and what you've seen in him?
Yeah, Jeremy, I think, is a great fit to our offense. Very similar style, running back to, backs that we currently have on the roster. It plays in a similar scheme offensively. Targeted him early. We felt like he was one of the backs that we really felt great about, that we wanted to, have be a part of our team. And then obviously his ability to play with the ball in his hands in a lot of ways. Running the ball, catching the ball. He's got really good return skills. So we think he's a complete package.
And also, have you decided whether or not you're going to retain your entire coaching staff this season?
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, with Riley Lease, are you tempted at all to let him have a little fling at quarterback when he gets there?
No, not at all. No, he's maybe throwing the ball back to the quarterbacks. But no, we recruited Riley as a wide receiver. We were very, I think, clear to him early on in the process. Dynamic athlete, explosive athlete. Not only a great football player, but great in multiple sports. Great family. Yeah, excited about what Riley's going to bring. I like all three of those wideouts. I think all three of those guys, that's one of those areas that we need to add competitive depth. We feel good about the two classes prior to this coming in, but that's an area that we definitely need to improve on our squad. And these three guys, I think, Riley and Ben and Ramad, I think, add, really good, solid competitive depth.
I know it's kind of late in the process, but did you feel a boost from being in a New Year's Day Bowl on national television in this cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, from a standpoint of having, like I said, 19 of the guys already committed, I'd love to say that nobody else tried to call them and still recruit them during their senior year. And obviously, I believe our success, the relationships that we built a year and a half ago, starting with some of these guys, significant. And then you look at not only this year's class, but I think more importantly, you look to the future and already have 4 guys verbally committed for the 2017 class. I think speaks not only about where we're at, but probably where we're going.
You just mentioned that a lot of these guys obviously signed before their senior year,
Yeah.
and nothing really is official until today. There's been a lot in the news lately about athletes decommitting or schools removing the scholarship. How much do you sweat out this process? Has it changed a lot? Has it always been that way?
Well, I think there's maybe a little bit more light shed on the process. I mean, go back, 20-plus years ago when I was recruited, it was barely covered to where now it's its own entity of part of the college football yearly cycle. And, I think everybody goes about how they do it from from the coaching perspective, the way that they see fit for their program, their university, their athletic department, and for their personalities. We've, I think, been pretty consistent over a decade on how we've approached this process, try to be as transparent as we can, really look for young men that fit our program. And that's, obviously academically, the character and the choices they make socially, and then young men that we believe are going to come here to compete to start to help us win a Big Ten championship. And, we haven't changed that from a standpoint of, I think, a structure, but the way the system has changed a little bit. The way it's covered, obviously, has changed a lot. But I think the way that we go about our business is pretty simple. We recruit guys. When we offer you a scholarship, it is a committable scholarship offer. If you decide to commit, we're going to take your commitment unless you change your academic character, your social character. We're not going to change from that. That's the way we philosophically believe in going about it. We've had some young men that have made a change in their decision that their commitment maybe needs to go somewhere else, and I think I've been pretty clear. Then, we're going to move on somewhere else also, and that's just the way that we've always done it. And I think you've seen very minimal decommitments from our program over a decade because of that. So I think you build a relationship on trust. I think you build it on honesty. Each family and each process with each young man is different and unique, but we have a philosophy that we stick to as a program, and it fits who we are, and we believe in it.
Have you seen that the parents are more aware of the recruiting process as well? Or, like you said, there's more light being shown on it. Do you see a change in the way the parents are protective of their kids as well?
Well, we're signing 20 new families, and if any indication of their future success is at home, Peggy, when you look at the families that these guys are coming from, it's awesome. I mean, we had, like I said, 18 of the young men on campus together, and their parents had a better time than I think the players, right? And this group has really built relationships for a long time. The 19 guys, and even Jeremy, who was our 20th commitment, they've had I don't know, a chat group or whatever together. They've been in constant communication as a group of young men. And then the parents, they created a Facebook page for each other. It's nuts. It's cool. It's really neat to see. Because you go back to when I got recruited, when you got dropped off, it was like the death march to reality, like, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? And you huddled with your family, and now these guys show up for the official visit weekend, and the family's parents are partying, and then the guys have great comfort together. So that's really changed a lot. I will tell you this, an increasingly larger part of the evaluation of a prospect for us is evaluating the parents. It's a big part of the evaluation. And, we have, and we probably will more so, and it's a private deal. I'm not going to share who, and I'm not going to share where they're going and things of that nature. But when we talk about our fit, we're evaluating the parents too. And if the parents don't fit, then we might punt on the player and not end up offering them a scholarship. And that has changed over a decade. 10 years ago, I'm not sure that was as big of a role. Now it's a big part of it. And on the other side, I think it's a bigger part of it when it is a good fit. It's really terrific. So everybody's a little bit different there, but that's how we've seen consistency and not only being able to hold commitments, but also then being able to have very little, if any, attrition once guys come into our program.
Fitz, on the the flip side of that Outback Bowl exposure, were you frustrated during the season by a lack of nationally televised games?
I thought all of our games were televised nationally.
ETN, yeah.
That counts, doesn't it?
Not every home gets it.
Well, you can get it on your iPad, can't you?
Not
I'm
every
not trying to argue with your
No,
question, but our exposure is as good. Signed from 9 states. I was all over the country in recruiting since the Outback Bowl. I got asked that during the bowl, where recruiting's at. It's at an all-time high. The awareness level of our program is at an all-time high, and I really think BTN has played a big role in that. The standpoint of maybe some of the other networks. You're not only competing with football, but you're competing with every other sport in the world. Where BTN, quite frankly, is phenomenal for Northwestern football. It's been outstanding, and we've seen a big spike in that, especially when we leave the Midwest footprint. And it's not it's well documented. We have great success in Texas, and those high school coaches and those players and those families see us play a lot, and that's been huge for us.
And you only had 2 recruits from Illinois this year. Would you have liked to see more, and do you think you're still a strong recruiting power locally?
I think we're a dominant recruiting power locally for who fit our program. Yeah, and unfortunately, some kids don't fit our program, and that is what it is. Sometimes we don't fit what some kids are looking for too, but we feel very strongly that from a standpoint of who fits Northwestern in the Chicagoland area, we're going to be top of their list, and I fully expect that we'll sign them on signing date. But I'd like to recruit every kid in Chicago. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Fitz, staying on the bowl game theme, you talked about the importance in the past of bowl games for
Yeah.
recruiting, yet in this class, you landed 19 of them before the season started, coming off of 2 5-7 seasons without bowls. So what does that say about the appeal of the program, and how have you recruited to that?
Well, I think sometimes probably fans get caught up in like one play, one half, one game mentality. And I think recruits get caught up in how a program can make a difference in my life. What kind of fit does a program make for me in my undergraduate experience? What are my opportunities for professional growth and individual growth while I'm there? What are my opportunities to compete and contribute? And at what point, how do I fit the schemes? How do I fit the systems? What kind of relationship do I have with the coaches, with the players? Most importantly, do I fit the players? And then, how do I look at the next 10, 15, 20, 40 years of my life on how the school is going to impact my life? Where, I think, again, when I get a chance to address you guys, it's, that one play in the third quarter gets talked about a lot, and to a recruit, I don't really think they care. I really don't. I mean, I think they look at, do I fit, and how am I going to be developed and grow? And kids see that how we're able to develop our young people. I mean, it's a holistic approach, and young people that fit our program want to be a part of something like that. I don't think they get caught up in one this or one that. I think they get caught up more in the big picture. That's usually why we're a pretty good fit.
Coach, going back to Jeremy Larkin, you guys obviously have a really deep stable of talented running backs. I think you have at least one talented running back in every class. How do you, when you're recruiting a guy like that, a running back at a position where, like, you have a lot of guys in front of him, how do you pitch that as a positive rather than a negative?
I think regardless of what position you play and where you go, you're going to have to compete. I mean, that's college football, and we're going to try to have a quarterback in every class. You're not asking me about the guard competition. I mean, I think there's some areas positionally that get talked about a little bit more on the recruiting front that you may think competition might scare a guy away. If a guy is afraid of competition, I'm not sure he's a good fit for our program. I'm not sure I'm a good fit for him as his coach. We've worked our tails off, and there's areas that we definitely know we have to improve our talent from a competitive nature on our roster. And we build from within. We don't go out and sign junior college players. That's not part of our fit, part of our identity. So it may take a little longer at some positions, and we may have some areas that we thought we hit on the right guys, and this happens or that happens, and we lose a little bit of competitive depth. But, typically when we've been successful, and it's been, we've been close. What is it? I think 8 or 9 of the 10 years that I've been the head coach, we've either been in a bowl game or a win away. That's pretty solid consistency, at least if you compare it to the history of our program. So definitely not where we feel like we can be, but we definitely feel like we're gaining on where we need to be from that competitive depth standpoint across the board at every position to give us a chance to compete for a championship.
Pat, you played a fair number of true freshmen the last few years.
Yeah.
How do you think that resonates with recruits?
Well, I think it's pretty common, Dave, from when I sit in their living rooms and I challenge all of them, and I've done this every year, that I guarantee you will redshirt yourself before I do if you don't do this. Number one, approach today when I was in their home until they report on Father's Day weekend like they're coming to compete to start. I'm not telling them they're going to. I'm just, if you don't have that mindset and that attitude that I'm training and preparing to come compete to start, they're going to redshirt themselves. And that's typically what ends up happening. I was probably that guy. And then I unfortunately had to play because of injuries as a true freshman. But more times than not, guys just don't do the things that they need to do to be ready when they show up. The second area is we may have, and to your question earlier about depth at the position, we may get all the way through. The young man's in great shape. He picks up the system fairly well on an early basis. He shows that he can battle. He's got the strength. He's going to stay healthy. But then we've got an area where right now the depth, at least as we start the season, shows us that we might not play him as much as we'd like to. And I'm probably too hard on our coaches. But if we're going to play a young man as a freshman, I want him to play. And we try, to play guys as much as we can if we're going to play him as freshmen. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way when we make the wrong prediction based on his ability to maybe play his specific position. But that's kind of my marching orders to the coaches. So I take that decision very serious, partly because I lived through it, and I know what it was like to play as a true freshman, how hard it is, especially come maybe around Halloween, when midterms are rolling at Northwestern, and you're right in the heart of Big Ten play. So I take that very serious. And then you couple that with our ability to get guys to graduate in 4 years and then the opportunity for a master's degree. It's a big decision in those guys' lives.
There's so much pomp and circumstance associated with this day now, with signing day around the country. In any ways, does that make it more difficult to refocus athletes who this is almost like a pinnacle, but it's really a beginning in a lot of ways, and they have to pivot to getting ready to play, high-level college football very quickly.
Yeah, there'll be no cameras or cakes at winter workouts on Monday morning. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the reality that these guys are about ready to face. And that's a good thing. I mean, I think this day should be celebrated. It's a special day for a lot of young men and their families. They've sacrificed. They've worked hard. It's hard-earned and well-deserved. And that should be celebrated. And then reality will set in tomorrow morning that, our guys are one day closer to reporting on Father's Day, getting ready for summer school. And that process and that journey that they're going to be on is more the reality. But this should be a great celebration for those families, the high school coaches, the grade school coaches that have helped these young men get to this day. But the reality is the reality. It's just another step in the journey to hopefully fulfilling their dreams and their goals.
Hey, Coach, looking at the offensive linemen you're bringing in this year, you got 4 of them, and looking at Gunnar Vogel especially, plays with a nasty streak. He's kind of like a mean player out there. Was that a point of emphasis to get more physical, a little more nasty up front in this class?
Those mean high school guys, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I think there's got to be a toughness period with anybody that we recruit. I mean, I think we play with a grit and an edge as a squad anyways, and that's a big part of our evaluation. You look at our 3 games this year that we ended up on the short end, we lost the line of scrimmage, all 3 games. 10 games we won it, and that's the Big Ten, and that's who you play when you're at Northwestern. So, there's no question we've got to always improve our competitive depth there. We've got to improve our size. Cam's a big man, 6'4", 6'5", 270, 275 right now. I think we list him at 265, but he's had a good offseason and has put on good size. Jesse's a young man with, I think, a huge ceiling. Originally from Canada, has played prep school ball. He's going to get a lot stronger, and he's already got really good size, 285 pounds. Nick is a guy who's down a little bit in weight right now, but that's because he's one of the top wrestlers in the state of Ohio. And you want to talk about toughness, you have to look no further than Nick. And then Gunnar, Gunnar's a massive man. I mean, he's all 6'6". I think he's closer to 290 now and not 265. But, great size there with all 4. Great, I think, functional strength. And now it's going to come back to going from being the biggest guy on the line and playing against 205-pound defensive linemen to playing against a D-line. And those guys will find out where they're at right away when they get to go compete against our D-line in Camp Kenosha this summer. Good group, though.
You got a kid, Django Glacken, who played a senior season at the IMG Academy. Is that something that made him at all more attractive to you as a recruit, that he was going to get that sort of full-on football experience there?
Yeah, I really like Django's video from last season, junior year. I thought he was active. I thought there were some areas that he was going to improve just because he was a year older. But no, I don't put, higher. I mean, Patty and Travis played at the #1 ranked high school program in the country. I put a lot of stock in that. I mean, you go undefeated in Texas high school football and you play in the best defense. You go down to Katy and everybody in that community says this is the best defense that Katy High School's ever had. And we're bringing their top linebacker and safety to Evanston. I mean, I get really excited about that. But a specific school like IMG, I think Django was already in the boat before he went down there. But he got great competition every day in practice. It's a unique situation. I'm interested to see how that progresses. I know that's not the most liked high school program in the country by high school coaches outside of IMG. But Kevin Wright and I have a great relationship. Longtime high school coach in Indianapolis. And we'll do a great job. And I'm really excited to have Django join our program. He's a terrific young man. He's got a big ceiling too. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger, and look forward to watching that progress.
Coach, you have one early enrollee in Tommy.
Yeah.
What's the process for deciding when a guy comes in early like that?
Well, it starts with the family. Is that something that the young man's interested in doing? And we would start that process then with he and his family about what it means and what you have to do to matriculate. Hopefully would commit earlier than later. Got to get going with the application process. Need to make sure all of his academic solids are in place, especially his English, science, and math courses in his senior year are all in place so that he'll matriculate and graduate on time and appropriately. Got to work through with Chris Watson, our admission staff, housing, all those things that go in, and move that from a June entrance into a January entrance. And then I got to sit down and I got to talk to the young man and his family and help him understand that he's going to go to the water fountain and think he's getting a drink of water and get hit with a fire hose. One day he's a big man on campus, and the next day he's a freshman that's coming in before his class, but after the previous class. And that sounds really fun, but it's no fun at all. And they need to understand what they're getting into. And we give them a big brother, an upperclassman that's going to look after them and put them under their wing. Charlie Fessler is roommates with Tommy, and hopefully looking after him. We just did our Wildcat Games draft yesterday, and C.J. Robbins drafted Tommy to his team just because he's in the position that he's in, quite frankly. So, will we do more? Yeah, if kids want to do that, but it needs to be the right fit. I mean, I talked to Django about it, with him being done at IMG, and he and his dad decided that that's not what they wanted to do, and I fully support that too. So it just depends on what the family wants to do.